Let's talk about waveguides today. What are waveguides? Waveguides are structures that guide waves. But why do we need waveguides in the first place? Why can't we transmit signals through air in a wireless fashion? For instance, let's look at the case of beamforming. In the case of beamforming, we narrow the focus of a signal and send it directly to the receiver in a straight line. However, all such wireless transfers suffer from an essential flaw. That is, they can be intercepted by malignant third parties and are not confined properly. On the other hand, waveguides are a very secure channel of sending information, and also there is no power loss that is associated with waveguides. Typically, beamforming is used in case we want a broad spectrum that we want to send, and narrow range of frequencies is sent through waveguides. Let's now look at what performs this channelization in waveguides. This is where we come to the concept of a PEC, that is a perfect electric conductor. In a PEC, we have the relative permittivity tending to a very highly negative value. The relation for relative permittivity is given by 1 minus omega p square by omega square, where omega p is the plasma frequency, typically in the range of 10 to the power of 16 Hz, and omega is in the range of gigahertz. This leads to a very high negative value, and there are no electric or magnetic fields that can exist inside the PEC, thus performing proper channelization. Now let's look at the type of waveguides that are present. One first that we come across is a parallel plate waveguide. Now, a parallel plate waveguide is obviously bounded by parallel plates on both the sides. This is the form of a general solution of a plane wave equation. Now, without loss of generality, you can assume that kx is 0 and ky has to be non-zero, otherwise the boundary conditions will not be satisfied. This leads to a standing wave formation in the y direction. Hence, there will be a sine or a cosine term which will be present in the expression. To figure out what those terms are, let's first revise the boundary conditions. The boundary conditions are as shown. The parallel component of electric field and the perpendicular component of magnetic field are equal on either side of the interface, whereas the difference of the electric displacement evaluates to the free surface charge present, and the difference between the parallel component of the magnetic intensity corresponds to the free surface current present on the interface. Hence, in our previous diagram, we can see that the parallel components are x and z, whereas the perpendicular component is y. Hence, the x and z components at y equal to 0 must evaluate to 0, as you can see here, because of the sine component, and the y component must survive, which is shown by the cosine term. Applying boundary conditions at y equal to a, we get this relation, which defines the mth mode of a waveguide. This is a very normal relation for k in the Cartesian system, and hence our dispersion relation is given by this equation. We all know that this is how phase velocity and group velocity is defined. In case we evaluate the expressions, we see that Vp comes out to be greater than c, whereas Vg comes out to be less than c. Vp greater than c is a very well-known anomaly. Let's now look at the other type of rectangular waveguide that is present. In this case, it is not just bounded by the parallel plates on the top, but also parallel plates on the side. That is, now standing waves are formed in both the x direction as well as the y direction. Because of the y direction's boundary conditions, these sine and cosine terms remain the same, but because of the x direction, we get a sine in the parallel components, that is y and z, whereas a cosine in the perpendicular component, that is x. And we know that the boundary conditions are exactly complementary for hx and ex. That is, so we can see that the terms get exactly complemented here. Sine becomes cosine and cosine becomes sine. Applying boundary conditions at y equal to b and x equal to a, we define the PQ mode of a waveguide, which is dealt with later on in the video. The analysis can be repeated for a rectangular waveguide as well. That is, we derive the dispersion relation. What we also get from here is a cutoff frequency. That is, if we apply kz greater than 0, this is what we get. This is the cutoff frequency above which the wave will propagate in the waveguide and below which kz turns out to be imaginary and the wave decays. This is a typical behavior of a high-pass filter. To understand better the application of waveguides, we'll have to understand modes. And to understand modes, we need to understand the various components that are present. That is, we need to revise Maxwell's equations. The first is the Gauss's law, which we already know. This is the Gauss's law for magnetism, the Maxwell-Faraday induction law, and this is the Ampere-Circuital law with Maxwell's correction. After going through certain complicated mathematics on the Maxwell's equations, what we get are these relations that define Ex, Ey, Hx and Hy in terms of Ez and Hz only. This is further used to define two modes as we talked about, TE and TM modes. Here, nu basically represents the spatial frequency which when is real, the wave will decay, and when complex, that is when purely imaginary, the wave propagates. Let's also now talk about the TE and TM modes. TE basically refers to transverse electric. That is, the electric field must be perpendicular to the direction of propagation, which in our case is the Z direction. Hence, the Ez component in TE mode must be 0. Parallelly, transverse magnetic will have the Hz component equal to 0. Depending on these values, certain components will survive and certain components will not be present, which basically define what our TE and TM mode are. Once this is done, let's now move to the application of single mode communication. What does single mode communication mean? When we're sending signals from one place to another, multiple modes may exist in a waveguide whose cutoff frequency is less than the frequency that we are sending. Hence, all these modes will propagate and we will not be able to detect when the signal arrives at the other end. In order to overcome this, what we can do is that we can transmit only one frequency. This will enable effective communication. For this, we need to know first the minimum mode that is present and then the next minimum mode that is present. Now, the minimum mode that is present in a waveguide is the TE10 mode. Now, let's look at what the next minimum mode is. The next minimum mode will depend on the relative values of A and B. Typically, in our cases, A is less than equal to B. Depending on these two cases, a TE20 mode may exist or a TE01 mode may exist, which is next in line to the TE10 mode. Depending on this, we have two values of the bandwidths that are visible. Our aim is to maximize bandwidth as well as power. The maximizing bandwidth condition leads us to the constraint that A must be less than or equal to B by 2. And in order to maximize power, we have the constraint that A must be equal to B by 2. Hence, for effective single mode communication, we want the parameters of the waveguide to be B by 2 and B. That also finishes one of our applications. Now let's come to the last case, that is, when we cover the waveguide from all three directions. This is the third direction that was present. Till now we were allowing propagation in the Z direction. But what if we also stop that? If we stop that, then standing waves are formed in all the three directions. We get a cutoff frequency which is of the form as shown, that is, this extra term gets added. All the analysis that we have done previously can be extended here as well. What can be noted here is that Ez will now have a cos term for the Z direction, since it is the perpendicular component in that direction and it must survive. Hz correspondingly will have a sine component since it must have complementary behavior to that of Ez. What is the most interesting part here is that resonant cavities differ from rectangular waveguides, since rectangular waveguides can allow a continuous spectrum of frequencies, whereas resonant cavities allow only discrete set of frequencies. They are basically used for storing energy. That pretty much sums up the entire concept of waveguides that has been explained. Hope the video was informative. It was presented by Narayani Bhatia and Varun Srivastav.